Hey guys, so I want to talk to you today about dream catchers. Now, first and foremost, before we get started into this, my example of a dream catcher is nowhere near as beautiful as the real thing. The real thing dream catchers were originated from a Native American tribe that we find more in Canada, kind of central southern Canada, from the, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, but I'm trying my best, the Ojibwe tribe. So, dream catchers are part of their culture. So, we need to be careful when we're talking about things from specific cultures. I want to make sure it's very clear that learning how to do this is all about learning to see what different cultures do around the world, just like we do for other art projects. What they do is beautiful, it's amazing. My stuff is nowhere near. If you really like the idea and the design of dream catchers, you need to support the actual people who really make it. Making it yourself is cool to learn the process and to understand the artists, but if you're somebody who thinks, oh, well, I'm having a bad dreams at night, I should get a dream catcher, I'll just make one myself. That's not how this works. That's cultural appropriation, guys. We want to learn what those cultures do, respect it, and honor it. If you're having those bad dreams and you think that the dream catcher sort of design would help you, go out and support the actual people, the culture that this comes from, and purchase from them, if they're even able to. This is part of their culture, guys. It's not something that a lot of people are doing for sale. Dream catchers are not from every single Native American tribe. That is a horrible prejudice and just not fact that somehow got spread around. We see this design and we call it a dream catcher, but in order for it to be truly a dream catcher like we think of, it needs to be from an actual tribe, and chances are they're not going to sell a real thing because it's part of their culture. They have some significance going into it. Today we're just going to kind of go over that design just so we can understand what they were making, how it was made, so we can better appreciate the real thing. Art and learning about cultures is all about understanding the artist from that culture. It's not about taking away their skill and doing it ourselves because it's easier. It's about gaining respect for those actual artists. So I hope you guys understand that as we go in today. This is all about just learning that basic design. It's not stealing their culture. It is not wanting to cause any disrespect. It's actually, I'm trying to be very respectful and honor this beautiful design that has been around for many, many, many years. So I hope you can join me with that as we go through this today. So this is kind of what my finished product looks like. Notice I have not trimmed the tail at the very end because I'm actually going to take this apart because this is my practice one and go through it again with you. If I was all done, I would tie this off. All right, so let me take this apart and then we'll get started. All right, it is all taken apart. Let's get started. So first, let's talk about your materials you're going to need. You are going to need some yarn. Now, this is definitely not the traditional way. The traditional way is way more beautiful. I'm just trying to show you with stuff that we have at our house. Whatever yarn you happen to have. Now you're going to need quite a lot of it. I stretched this out, and my piece for the size of hoop I have is close to almost 11 feet long. It is a long piece of yarn. It's better to have too much and then have to go back and cut it than to not have enough. It also has to do with the size of hoop you have. So you have to start with a circle. Traditionally, they would take a willow branch and create that circle themselves. For us, you can find any sort of hoop that you happen to have. I had a bunch of embroidery hoops laying around. Talk to your mom, talk to your grandma, see if they have any. You could even do a very large design practicing on a hula hoop or something like that. All right, so let's get going. First thing you want to do is you want to tie your yarn to the hoop. I want to start off with a double knot. I did mine up here on this little opening because I knew it would hold in place and not move around. So I like to start by kind of bundling up my yarn. I take with 3 fingers and I kind of hold it and I loosely wrap it up. This will make it a whole lot easier as I start kind of weaving this around my hoop so that way I don't have this giant bundle that gets tangled. There we go. In the weaving community, we call this a skein. A skein of yarn is just a little bundle. All right, I think I wrapped that a bit too tight. There we go. So first thing we want to do is we want to go around the entire outer edge, and we are going to very loosely wrap it. Ideally, we want to go around, for my size hoop, we're going to go about 8 times. To give you reference, my hoop has a diameter of about 9.5 inches, just to give you a frame of reference. If you have a bigger hoop, you're going to want to wrap more. If you have a smaller hoop, you might want to go less. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, oops, and 8. Now, we want to kind of space this out. You want it kind of loose. We're not wrapping it super tight because we're going to have to be able to tuck in threads as we go. So I'm just kind of working my way around, spacing this out a bit better, trying to get kind of an even spacing throughout best I can. Now again, keep this loose. The looser you make it in the beginning, the easier it's going to be to make, but at the very end, you're going to give yourself more steps. The tighter you make it, it's going to be harder in the beginning, but at the end, you might have a little bit better design. My advice would be start loose on your first one. You can always go back and tighten it or redo it if you need to. All right, so I've gone all the way around. Now, every time this loop comes in, see how the strings kind of come into the center each time they wrap? We're going to continue to go around, and I'm going to loop it around those, always going over then under. So I'm going to take my end here. I'm going to get my first one. I'm going to loop it around that, onto the next one. Loop it around, onto the next one. You see how it's kind of pulling it forward a little bit? It's exactly what we want to happen. So you can see how being a little bit looser in the beginning would make this step a little bit easier. Whereas if it was tighter, it might be a bit more complex. All right, I've made it all the way around once. Take a second, see how your spacing is, and start to pull it a little bit tight. Not super snug, but let's get that slack out of there. All right, keep our spacing good, looking good. And we just continue this process, going around the center of each spot as we go. And you just continue this kind of spiral all the way into the center. And that is what creates that sort of web. Now, if you can keep it fairly snug as you go, so holding it kind of tight, not cranking it down super tight, but kind of tight, it's going to be a little bit easier to see that design. You don't want it really loose. Oops. See how my wraps kind of come undone there. That's okay. All right, and continuing as I go, I'm going to kind of just pull it tight a little bit. So that's going to pull out these triangle shapes as I work my way around. Now, I am definitely no expert on dream catchers. I think if this is something that you find an interest in, I would recommend doing some research of your own. My little bit of research that I did showed how this process, when they are done in the traditional manner, would involve a lot of putting your thoughts and prayers into your design as you go. And theirs was also much more complex, going much tighter spirals. Theirs are way better than mine, but it's all about just learning their process. So you see, I'm just working my way around, always going in through that spot, kind of tightening as I go. At this point, as you get close to the center, if you still have a lot of yarn left, I would definitely trim off that extra because it's not going to be needed. I just want to make sure I keep pulling this tight, not super tight, but snug as I work my way around. That's going to make for a nicer, more even design as I go. All right, at this point, I'm noticing it's not really making triangles anymore. It's more of just starting to make this circle. That is the time to stop. I'm gonna do one last one to finish that. Definitely tighter squeeze when you get to the center. So at this point, kind of tighten it a bit, see if you can center it. There should be a little bit of a circle in the center. That's very common, that is okay, that's what you want to see. Now to tie it off, you definitely have a few options. I would definitely trim off my extreme extra, because that's just going to make it more complex. And I would probably just go through and tie it into this center somewhere, and then get rid of the extra the best I can. So I could tie it, I'd probably double tie it and then trim it off. I'm not making it super tight because I'm going to undo mine. Because if I wanted a real one, I would go out and I would support the actual people who made these. I just wanted to see that process. What's cool about these is you can really see that radial design. Remember, radial design means it has multiple lines of symmetry. So if I cut it in half, it's going to be the same on each side. And it's really kind of spiraling down, like designs that we see in nature, in flowers and plants, even in spiderweb sometimes. It's a beautiful design. It's an amazing process that the, I'm going to say it wrong, Ojibwe tribe does and did. Hopefully you understand their process a bit better and can better respect the real thing. Now make sure if you're going out and purchasing one of these that you support the actual people. Don't buy something that was made in a factory. These sorts of things are vital to people's culture and their community. You want to respect that and not support somebody being greedy, trying to make money off of them. I hope you have a better respect for it now and can understand this process a bit better. Have fun, guys!